All right, what we're going to be talking about today is kingpins. We're going to talk about wear and tear. We're going to talk about keeping them greased. We're going to talk about a lot of things. So stick around, because Cam's coming in right after I walk off, and he's going to give you some tips and tricks on kingpins on 1965 to 1979-ish.
So, kingpins, they are pretty much a variation of ball joint. Well, not really ball joints. They're a heavier duty version of pivoting knuckles. They use them on everything from obviously pickup trucks, pretty much exclusively on semi trucks, equipment, you name it. It's probably got a kingpin somewhere in it. All right, now kingpins are a metal rod that come from the top of the knuckle, go through your axle into the bottom of the knuckle. There are brass, bronze, whatever type of bushings came with your kit. In the knuckle side, typically the axle is no bushing with a through bolt, so that it does not turn in the axle. All right, and also there is a thrust washer right here and shims. This is what sets the amount of up and down play your knuckle has to the axle, and this can wear out. This is must be greased, and this, well, the whole system needs to be greased, honestly, but the lower is the most important part. The easiest way to check them is to jack up the front of it. Now I have a big socket, like 1.25 inches underneath the tire. The weight of the vehicle is down on the tire. Right now the weight of the vehicle is down on to the socket, and I've got an extension so I can rotate and put some torsion on it, and I am looking for movement in these bushings mainly. And I do not see any. All we're getting right now is tire deflection. That's perfectly normal. If you have rim movement, that is either movement in these bushings or movement in your bearings. There is a little bit of rim movement in this one, so we probably need to tighten up the wheel bearings. But as it looks, these kingpins are good. Now, as far as maintenance, these really just need to be greased. The best way to grease them is to jack them up like this, take all the weight off the hub, and then grease the lower until you get fresh, clean grease coming out of the thrust bearing. And the same with the top. You can just do 1 or 2 pumps if you regularly grease them, but if you've missed a few intervals, let's say, push grease out until it's fresh and clean. And now the intervals are pretty much oil change, or if it's a road truck that you're constantly driving, like my service truck, I'll typically grease them every couple weeks. It just tightens them up, makes it turn easy, but every oil change is fine. All right, so here we have the cap off of the driver's side lower kingpin. The reason that we have this cap off was to pull the grease zerk out and go get one, because the passenger side cap is welded on. You shouldn't weld these on. Makes it a real pain to remove the kingpin if you ever have to again. But the reason for welding that on was probably when they were replacing the kingpin, they were driving the kingpin out and they messed up the threads right here in the knuckle. These are a very difficult thread to chase, and you pretty much cannot tap them because they are about the depth of this plug here. So most taps do not work. You would have to probably get one made. It's not worth it. If you want to save the knuckle, you just weld the cap on it. It's not good, but it does do the job and keep the grease in. So we're going to go get a grease zerk and see if we can thread it into the other cap and hopefully not have to tap that out, because that puts chips into the grease area, which is not good, but better than no grease. So I'll put this back in.
right, lightning round.
Yes.
So we basically talked about it and shown it. You use that cool little, was it a Milwaukee?
Yeah. Once you do one machine with the hand grease gun, never again.
Don't repeat why.
Yeah.
There was something he said that we're not going to repeat
Yes.
on our family show.
Not
about-
family friendly. Something about your arm being tired by the end of it, and no good coming your way.
Go whatever way you want with that. I am not going to help you. All right, so lightning round. What should a guy look out for? I mean, if he buys a truck and he's taking it home, what should he be listening for out of the kingpins or feeling out of the kingpins as he's driving it?
Mostly noise when you're turning. It'll sound more of a clunking or a grinding noise, especially if the thrust bearing is going out. That'll give you a real pronounced deep grinding sound. And
Yeah.
you can also often feel it through the steering as well.
Yeah, it'll have kind of a notchy
Yeah.
feel to the wheel, and that's going to be a little harder to understand or feel if you've got power steering on the truck, but
It'll feel like it's fighting you.
yeah, exactly.
The other is tire wear, obviously. It takes a lot of wear of kingpins to give you camber, but it does happen.
Yeah, but you get that kind of wear too. You're going to be hearing clunking when you're going over
just
road
like
irregularities
bad ball
and things.
joints, you're going to hear thunk thunk as you're going over everything. And also, if you have that and you grease the kingpins and it goes away for a little bit, that's the kingpin's worn out. The grease takes up the space and stops the thunk. So, but then it pounds the grease out of it, and there you go.
Voila.
But on greasing them, you want to make sure that you're jacked up off the ground. And I like to cycle the kingpins through. So you go to one lock, grease both sides, go the other lock, grease, and then you can cycle it back and forth to work it through.
And what you're wanting to find on that is, like you said earlier in the episode, you want to see clean grease coming out of there.
Yeah, especially if you haven't done it in a while.
And these, we never even did these women. They look good to us. We just put them on the ground and ran it.
Yeah,
And we got lucky.
yeah.
Because there was some grease in there, but this time when we pulled the cap off the one side to match the Zerk fitting,
Look pretty nasty.
it was pretty brown. That was not a good kind of brown, like a brown grease.
That
It was-
might have been lithium grease, but it was probably just been in there a while, absorbed a bunch of water.
Yeah, and that's a real problem on the F100s and all the way up through F350s, because those axles are just right down there in the water line when
Yep.
you're driving it. So
Yep.
that's another good reason to keep the grease in there.
Yeah, that pushes all the water out, keeps everything lubricated, prevents corrosion, and all that stuff.
So is that it that I can come up with?
Pretty much. There's not much to kingpins, really.
There really isn't. I mean, that's an old format. I mean, that's
Yeah.
been around forever. That's probably been around even before the I-beam suspensions, because of
yeah.
the old straight axle
Yep.
stuff back in the day. Probably was a kingpin setup as well, mostly.
Yeah, 100%.
So there you go. So I mean, it's something that's going to be something you're going to deal with if you're dealing with anything older than like an F100 or even F150 all up into the 80s.
Yep.
And I believe all the way up to 90.
My F Super Duty has kingpins, and it's a 96.
So 96. So they had.
Semis,
They
current.
did change them a little bit though, didn't they, on some of the later trucks with the way the kingpins were done from what this one has?
There are several different variations. There are threaded kingpins where they thread into the bushings. There are different style of bushings, but generally speaking, they're all the same.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it, folks. That's our show for this week. Do me a favor, be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Auto Resto Mod. So, we did discover something else, which is going to be in an upcoming episode, which I wasn't intending on doing anything more on the F100, but we have a problem that we've come up with now.
The wheels don't turn.
Wheels on the bus don't go round and
Yeah,
round.
nah. Not
I mean,
bad.
I've been driving it like this too. I'm kind of surprised I didn't come home to a smoking caliper.
yeah.
All right, so that's something we're probably going to cover in an upcoming episode. It may be a sidebar episode. It may actually be a regular episode here on Auto Restomod, but we are planning on moving away from the 72 Ford truck for right now and moving over to our 72 Mach 1 to get that thing running and driving. So look out. We may be driving a 72 Mach 1 within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Because it may not stop.
I can guarantee you. With the calipers and rotors the way they are, we're going to be putting pads and rotors on that thing probably. And those are brand new rotors back when I did that car too. Maybe we'll be able to get them turned. Like you can go down.
in the 1900s.
I had one of the 12 disciples help me work on that. You guys have a great week.